Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the City of Durango City Council regular meeting. It is June 17th at 5:30 p.m. Ben, may I please get a roll call?
Councillor Coso. Present. Councillor Buell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Here.
Mayor Yazzie. And Councillor Gonzalez.
Unfortunately, Mayor Yazzie had to step away for a personal emergency today, so I will be conducting the meeting in her stead. May I please get a reading of the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement?
This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we are called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi-Sinom, Hopi, and Dene Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step toward inclusion and reconciliation.
Thank you. Tom, is the translator available? If so, could we get an introduction?
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. I'm here with my colleague, B. Torres, and we're here with the Community Language Co-op to provide interpretation in English and Spanish. If you need to access interpretation, please do it through the More menu, and you can select Language and Speech, and then select the language of your heart from there. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Liz Torres y estoy aquí con mi colega B. Torres y el día de hoy seremos sus intérpretes de la Cooperativa Comunitaria de Lenguaje. Si usted necesita interpretación, por favor, haga clic en más, en lo que son los tres puntitos, y allí podrá seleccionar inglés o español. And we can go ahead and get started.
Thanks so much. Moving on to item number 3, opening remarks by Mayor and Council. Yes, Councilor Coso.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to highlight, I was at the farmer's market on Saturday and ran into our very own finance team having a booth at the farmer's market, putting out a financial report that really connects a lot of the finances back to our strategic plan. I thought it was incredibly well done. I thought it was potentially a challenging environment being at the farmer's market and trying to talk finance, but the team did a great job there and really appreciate the efforts that's going in to connect back to the community. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Great. Moving on to number 4, presentations and proclamations.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm Cheryl Turney, your interim CFO. Your new CFO, Gloria Platt, will be here in less than 2 weeks. So I know that the finance staff is really looking forward to her arrival, bringing her knowledge and experience to the department. I also want to take this time, since it's probably the first and hopefully the last time I'll be here before you. I want to thank Jose for his support during the short time that I've been here, and to the rest of the finance team also. I've truly loved my experience here in Durango, in your beautiful town, and I know how much the city team appreciates your support and leadership. I am here today to present to you the city's 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, also known as the ACFR. I can't take any credit for the hard work that went into preparing that document. The finance staff, particularly Diane Gersh, back there in the back, of course, as a finance person would be. She's the compliance and reporting manager. Also, her employees, Teresa Hill and Helen Brookbar, also worked long hours to bring this document to you today. I've been told that this is the earliest that it has been completed in at least the last 5 years, so which is a testament to all the hard work that went into it by her and the rest of the finance team. This afternoon, we have with us online our auditors, Ide Bailey. Paul Kane is the audit partner. They are our external independent auditors who will share their audit results, highlight their key findings, and offer any recommendations. So I believe Paul is online, and I think he's presenter and will be presenting the highlights for the audit.
Thank you, Cheryl. It was said my camera wasn't working and I was muted by the host, but am I good now? Can somebody acknowledge they can hear me?
Yeah, you're great.
Awesome. And I will share my screen. I have slides to present today. There they are. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me here. I'm happy to be here, present the 2024 ACFR. Thank you for the introduction, Cheryl. And also thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. Before I start, I just want to quickly, I know I have 15 or 20 minutes just to get through all of this today. And I just want to start by thanking the finance team. They did an amazing job. Their hard work and professionalism throughout this process was pivotal to get this done as fast as we were able to this year. Like Cheryl said, this is the earliest we have dated the audit report in the 6 years we have worked with the city. So we keep getting better. It's gotten better every single year. And now we are here. This is basically when we want to get done. It's due to the GFOA on June 30th, due to the state on July 31st. So you're way ahead of that timeline. And they were just fantastic, very responsive, very great to work with as always. So thank you so much. Moving on, let me introduce myself as well. I'm Paul Kane. I'm an audit partner within our Denver office. I am in Denver today. I've been with our firm for 22 years, pretty much work in local government space in Colorado, mostly as well. So I've been with the city a few years now. I absolutely love it down there and happy to be working with you all. This is my agenda. I'm just going to quickly go over a summary of the audits, the financial statement audit and single audit, which is auditing the federal awards. I'm going to talk about required communications that we have to present to you as the city council of the city, and then just have time for some questions when I'm done. And first, the 2024 financial statement audit. So what you pay us for is this independent auditor's report. This is the first 3 pages of the document. It's our contribution to 200 something plus pages. It is 900 plus hours of work to get to this point. And I'm not going to go through it all in detail, but just quickly highlighting what's here. This is a clean, unmodified opinion. It's really the best that you can receive. First page of it goes through our opinion. This is what it is. This is what you pay for, an audit opinion. The first paragraph is what was audited, the financial statements of the city. The second paragraph gives our opinion. It says that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects as of December 31st, 2024, and for the whole year. And then the third paragraph breaks down what accounting standards we follow. We follow GAAP, we follow government audit standards and ASCP audit standards. Bottom of the first page and into the second page break down manager responsibilities and auditor responsibilities. So the management's responsible for the fair presentation of this document. And they also ensure that they've considered if there are conditions that raise substantial doubts about the city's ability to continue as a going concern. We state both of those things clearly there. There is no issues with the city's ability to continue as a going concern. And, the financials are here, they're audited and they're fairly presented. Management put in a ton of work to get them here. Our responsibilities for performing the audit are really to perform it in accordance with GAS, generally accepted audit standards, and government audit standards. And we bulleted out what that means on the second page, which is really exercise professional judgment, maintain professional skepticism, and then understand the controls relevant to designing our audit. So we're not doing an audit of your controls. We work through your processes and your controls enough to be able to understand the controls relevant to designing our procedures and assessing the risks that we've identified. So we kind of spell that out there. Moving on to the third page, it's a 4-page document. Other matters, break down other things in this document besides your financial statements. There's management discussion and analysis that they've put together. Schedules of changes in pension stuff, which is considered RSI, required supplementary information, as well as budget to actual schedules, which are in the back. None of that information is audited. We read through it. We make sure it's consistent with the stuff that is audited. And then there's other information as well. All the combining schedules for all the non-major funds are in the back. There's a lot of those. The local highway finance report that's prepared for the state. And then there's an introductory section and then all the stats in the back. All of that is not audited, but like, again, we read through it, we make sure it matches the report. And then the 4th page talks about summary comparative information. There is stuff in the back related to 2023. We audited that, matched it up to last year's audit. And then there's another report, which I'm going to touch on after the financial statement component, that generally accepted government audit standards, that's what GAGA stands for, requires us to put it in there. So that's your report. Moving on to your MD&A. I like to present from the MD&A. It's really for a couple of reasons. It's comparative financial information all in one place. Your normal statements are single year, but when you look at the MD&A, those first 20 pages, it's really a great place to learn what's happening. So, you have a side-by-side comparison of the government as a whole, like as the whole operating entity, governmental activities versus business type activities and totals. You dig into the details, lots of funds, lots of information, only 1 year. This really lets you see what's there year over year. And then there's also like explanations from management as to what happened and why it happened. So if you're going to dig into the financials and you don't have time to read 200 pages, I think the MD&A is a really good place really to focus. And some financial highlights that are like from the first page of the MD&A. So the city's assets and deferred outflows is exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows. So this is your retained earnings, net income, net position of the fund or of the government as a whole is $422 million this year, which is compared to last year, $409 million. It grew $13.5 million. Overall, full accrual changes in net position, the net income for the year was $12.4 million compared to $21 million in 2023. Net income's down, but it's still $12.4 million this year. Of that decrease, $10 million was related to governmental activities. So that's where the change was. Business type activities slightly increased $1.4 million. Business type is things like the water fund, sewer fund, transportation. It's things that operate like a business compared to the governmental services being provided in the governmental activities. Net position of the governmental activities increased by $11.2 million. And then pointing out the unassigned and assigned fund balance of your general fund, the operating fund of the government was $11 million. 20.4% of 1 year's expenditures is sitting in the fund balance for the general fund at the end of the year. This page is pulled straight out of page 18 of the ACFR, and it's your statement of net position. It's the balance sheet of the whole government. So you can see governmental activities, business type activities, and the total. A big picture of the government as if it's one company. Total assets are up from $485 million to $497 million. So that $13 million, vast majority of that is an increase in capital assets. So your investments in the infrastructure of the city went up that much this year. As you can see, other assets are very consistent year over year. A little bit went up, a little bit went down. Cash balances are up a little. Cash is down. Airport joint venture is up a little bit. So it all kind of balances out. But the capital assets were the biggest swing there. And the total liabilities are down from 75 to 71, basically related to your pay down of your debt. So you went from 62.1 down to 56.9 in long-term debt, just related to paying down the amortization of those loans. And I know early in 2025, you also paid the $5 million bond down. So that's in your subsequent events, in your financial statements, that there's another big payment that's been made already in 2025 to take that down quite a bit more. Overall, the net position is your fund. Your net position is your retained earnings or equity. It went from $409 million to $422 million. So another slide just on the highlights of that net position itself. It keeps going up, which is really great. You're not working like the federal government. You're actually growing your fund balance at the end of the day. Each year, you're not operating in a deficit. Governmental activities increase 11 million, and business type increase 1.2 million. So of that equity, 71.8% relates to your investment in capital assets, and the rest is either assigned or unassigned. The unassigned component or unrestricted component is really like you can spend it on whatever you want. So of the total, let me go back a slide. $110 million is unrestricted last year versus 104 million is unrestricted this year. It's not earmarked for anything, which you can go to the funds and kind of read more about the restrictions and the commitments and things like that. But at an overall level, 104 million is unrestricted and 302 million is invested in your capital assets. That's infrastructure, less it's debt, essentially. Moving on to page 19. This is the income statement of the city. So it's called a statement of changes in net position. So your net position, it changed. Why? Because of more revenues and expenses. Overall, your changes in your net position are your net income. It's summarized at the bottom. $11.2 million increase in net position in 2024 versus 21.2 million last year. And you can, in governmental activities, business type went up about 1.2 million compared to last year. So the overall change went from $21 million in net income last year to $12.4 million in net income this year. But as you can see, you still grew that net position from 409 million to 421 million. The biggest change I think here to point out is just revenues went from 118 million to 110 million, mostly within that other category. Everything else is pretty flat and up a little bit. Charge for services up a little, taxes are up, $1 million. But this other category is things like intergovernmental agreements and lots of other things that just flow through miscellaneous stuff through all the funds. That stuff fluctuates year over year. And it's the biggest component in the change. So that went from 19 down to 9. Your expenses, 97 million last year, 97.9 million this year. Some went up and some went down. At the end of the day, it's very, very flat. I think that's all I wanted to point out there. I created this slide just to show the net position trend of all the years we've worked with the city. So in 2019, you had $332 million in net position at a government-wide level. And now you're up at 422 million. So you can just see that growth. You've been very, very consistent with building up your net position over time. Governmental activities from 222 to 300, business type from 110 to 121. I think super strong. It just shows the great position the city is in. Significant note disclosures. Not going to go in and read all those to you, but these are the key note disclosures. I think if you're going to dig in and read about things going on, the note 1 is accounting policies. How do you do things? Why do you do them? How are they reported? All the cash and investments of the city are broken down in the deposits and investment note. What are you holding right now? Capital assets, it breaks down all the changes in the city's infrastructure. The long-term debt, the same, all the debt that you're holding and what happened with it this year, anything new, anything that you paid down. The pension stuff is a lot of pages. It's required to be in there by GASB. There's way more than you ever need to know about your pension. It's all FPPA stuff for the firefighters and the police. And then contingencies, I always point that out. There's really nothing right now there, but it's just something to look at. It's where, any kind of undetermined type of legal things or anything out there, big commitments, things like that would end up in that footnote. And that's it for the financial statement audit. So if anybody has questions now, I will stop for a minute before I move on to the federal award component. Or we can just do questions at the end.
Any questions from the council? No, please continue. Thanks.
Okay, absolutely. So the single audit is what it's called when you're doing an audit of your federal awards plus the financial statements in one single audit. So that's how it got that name. This is a separate packet we issued outside of the ACFR. It is not within the ACFR. So the city does keep this on the website as well. It looks like this. It's the federal awards report in accordance with uniform guidance. That's the rules we follow and we put this report together. It's 12 pages, and I'm just going to quickly go through what's in here. First couple of pages are called the Yellow Book Report. It's a report on the internal controls, and it basically says that we don't audit your controls. We gain an understanding of your controls. We consider them for planning and performing our audit. And if we do have financial statement deficiencies in control deficiencies related to the financial statement audit, we report them. We have no such deficiencies or material weaknesses related to the financial statement audit for 2024. And it would be here if we did. That's the only thing to point out on that 2-page report. The next report is 3 pages, and it's an opinion and it's a report. So it's an opinion on compliance with your federal spending. We go through, we audit the federal dollars. We're required to get a certain amount of coverage of your spending. We look at the compliance rules, make sure you're spending it in line with those federal requirements. And this year we had to test 3 programs. So we give an opinion on compliance of each program. We looked at the state and local fiscal recovery funds, which are now fully spent. That came out of the COVID money. Recreation resource management and formula grants for rural areas, and the tribal transit program. So there's 3 separate programs subject to audit this year. Within those 3 audits, we have 1 significant deficiency in controls, no compliance issues. Within these audits, we're required to look at controls over compliance and test the controls, and then we also test compliance. So there's a much higher standard in terms of we have to make sure every single selection we pick that there is a control that operated related to that selection. And 1 significant deficiency over 1 control means we had 1 instance where we noted there was a control that it's in place, it's operating across the board, but there was some documentation missing, which I can point out in a minute. Next in this document is the SEFA, the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. It's page 6 of the report. This breaks down all your federal spending as a city. So it was $10.5 million in federal expenditures in 24 compared to $12.5 million last year, a $2 million decrease. The main decrease was related to community project funding. $3 million was spent last year to SLRF money. Spent more last year than this year. Another $2.6 million decrease within the airport improvement program. That airport program runs through the city's SEFA, since the city is in charge of the accounting for that program and the compliance requirements. That's down, so that's $5.5 million down, but that's offset by increases in SLRF went up actually $1.3 million. The rec program went up $1 million. And the transit program is there at $715,000 this year. So that's kind of the swing in your dollars. Overall, it went down a couple million. Page 9 is a page that summarizes the auditor's results. If you just wanted to grab any single audit report, go to page 9. You'll see exactly all the stats of what happened. We issued an unmodified report on the financial statements. We had no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance. Federal awards, no material weaknesses, 1 significant deficiency, which I just mentioned, and you have an unmodified opinion on compliance for all your major programs. The next part of that just shows what programs we audited, which I've already mentioned. These are the federal assistance listing numbers, and these are the program names. And that is that. If we had a financial statement finding, it would be listed there next. There is none. And lastly, we do have 1 single audit finding over procurement within the formula grants for rural areas and tribal transit program. And just honor of the time I have, I'm not going to go through the finding in detail, but I can answer questions you have for them. It's related to missing documentation on a sole source procurement. The vendor was appropriately procured, just the support for why it was selected was coming up short. We are doing an audit of the airport as well. So the airport is a joint venture between the city and the county. The city is responsible for the airport's audit and accounting. And so we audit the airport. That audit is done. There were no findings. It was also a clean, unmodified opinion, and it was issued at the same time as the city's on June 13th as well. Lastly, I need to go through the governance letter at a very high level. And this letter looks like this. It should have been provided to you. The mayor and members of the city council. It's a letter that is required to be provided at the conclusion of every single audit to governance. And the letter breaks down just a few things. It tells you that we complied with professional standards and all ethical requirements. This year, the city adopted GASB 101, which is a new standard. There was no restatement as associated with the implementation of the standard, but it changed the calculation of compensated absences that are being reported. We do list significant risks identified by the auditor during planning within a similar letter. The financial statements include sensitive disclosures because of their importance to the users of the financial statements. We list that out there. We talk about there were not audit adjustments proposed. Nothing was corrected as a result of the audit, but there was a couple uncorrected immaterial misstatements that are listed within that letter. And we are happy to say there were no disagreements or significant difficulties working with management. And very last slide I have is just upcoming GASBs. Like they just hit on this. There are a couple coming down the line. Financial reporting model improvements. They're changing this report. Again, it's not going to be nearly as big as we all were worried about, but there are some changes coming to the report in 2026. And next year, there's some changes with risk disclosures. If there's certain risk disclosures that GASB is requiring to be put into footnotes. And then also capital asset disclosures. They're beefing that up a little bit. So nothing huge. The financial reporting model improvements will be, but we have a couple of years to kind of get ready for that still. And that's it. So just under 20 minutes. Thank you. What questions do you have for me?
Any questions from council? Yep, sure, Councilor.
Just a couple of quick statements. First off, I don't think I've ever seen anybody present an audit smile that much, Paul. So that was nice and reassuring. I appreciate that over the remote. The other piece I wanted to say is I've read through a lot of audits. I really appreciate the way that the notes were constructed and structured within the audit. So I think that the team did a great job. Not sure how much that was your team and how much of that was our team, but really appreciate that within the audit. So thanks for everything there.
Absolutely.
Great. Paul, thanks so much for the time and getting that put together and spelled out for us. So thanks.
You're welcome.
I just want to thank the finance staff for putting this together. I know there was a lot of hard work that went into it. Diane, Helen, Heidi, Cheryl providing that continuous structure for us as we move forward, as we went through the last stages of completing the audit with our CFO who left and having an interim in that can always be difficult. Then also just our executive leadership team. Finances obviously are kept and accounted for in our finance department, but it's an entire organization to ensure that we are hearing and heeding to our financial stances. And I think what Paul highlighted from 2019 to currently of how dramatically our financial position has improved is a credit to our team and our employees. So thank you all very much. Appreciate your hard work.
Agreed. I'd also like to echo those same sentiments. And also, Cheryl, thank you so much for coming in a kind of an iffy time for us as we had a CFO out and being an interim for us, and a testament to the finance team and how they shine regardless. And so thanks for putting in the time, Cheryl, with us. And we're sorry to see you go, but thanks for putting in the time while you're here. So appreciate that. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, city manager updates.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I do have 2 updates. The first one will be by Mary Catherine Lord. It will be in regards to our our popular annual financial report that Councilor Coso mentioned a little bit earlier. We have now created this. We think it's going to be an awesome document that will highlight how we expend our funds here at the city and the purpose for it. A really good, I think, citizen outreach and learning piece. So I will pass it on to Mary Catherine to just give a quick presentation on an overview on what you all can expect to see.
Thank you. I'll also be joined by Heidi Wise and Rhonda Cundiff. Just wait until she passes all of them around. That was great. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Way to go, Councilor Coso.
Right. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Thank you, Jose. We're all very excited to be here to present our first ever popular annual financial report, also known as PAFR. And this is actually really exciting, presenting them right after the ACFR report. And you can see kind of the differences in what we're striving to do here. So what is a PAFR? A PAFR is a simplified, easy to understand summary of our government financial information. This report is really made for the community. You don't need a background in accounting or finance. It's really consumable information for everyone. And just a disclaimer, this is still a draft document. We are trying to finalize, and there are some typos, and we will present the official report online in a couple of weeks. So we'll just quickly go page by page. This is our table of contents showing all of the pages of the report. Next is a letter from the city manager. This just describes kind of our commitment to financial transparency and public engagement. The uniqueness of this report, though, is that we are definitely doing it in the lens of the Durango community, trying to summarize the financial information in regards to our strategic plan initiatives and kind of our key accomplishments in those goal areas. Next is just a highlight out of our 2024 City Council leadership. This is the council that was in charge during the 2024 fiscal year. Next is just a highlight of our financial awards. We did receive the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our 2024 budget, and we did also receive their Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our 2023 ACFR, and we just submitted our 2024 ACFR. This is just a highlight of our financial timelines, some of the key processes in order for us to execute and adopt a budget every year, and also all of the processes it takes to compile the ACFR, the PAFR, and complete a successful audit. This just really demonstrates the coordination and the collaboration that we're trying to accomplish with our budget and our accounting teams, trying to close any gaps on reporting and just side-by-side work together. Next is just a document how-to. This is just a breakdown of what a PAFR is, but again, it's just highlighting the uniqueness of the Durango community. Again, most traditional PAFRs just summarize the expenses and the revenues, just like that, expenses and revenues. But we tried to do it a little bit more unique, like I said, trying to summarize those operational expenses by strategic plan goal area. Just to highlight, we're really trying to accomplish the community strategic plan. Also, we wanted this to be very consumable information. We know that accounting entries can be a little bit confusing, so we wanted to just provide the cash items, the expenses. So we excluded non-cash items such as depreciation or amortization. Those things can just be a little bit more confusing, and we just wanted to highlight the actual dollars spent in this report. So next we'll just go into a revenue breakdown. We thought this graphic was a really interesting way to describe, like, where do your sales tax dollars go? What is the 3.5% fund? So 2% of that goes to our general fund, 0.5% goes to our multimodal and recreation projects, 0.5% goes to street improvements, 0.25% goes to capital improvements, and 0.25% goes to parks, trails, and open space projects. These are voted on by the community. We just wanted to show where these dollars are being spent. Next is a breakdown of our lodgers tax revenue, what we received in 2024. And this graphic is actually the Jack Dempsey mural on the side of El Rancho, which was restored by a local artist and funded by the lodgers tax grants. Next is our grants revenue breakdown. These are our federal and state grant revenues that we received broken down by fund. And this just is obviously an offset of our community impacts, extra dollars coming to our community. And then next is our general fund revenue. As you can see, the majority of our dollars come from our sales tax and use tax revenues. Next, we're going to go through a breakdown of expenses, and I'll hand it off to Mary Catherine.
Thanks, Heidi, and Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So the remainder of this report is specifically about expenses. So starting with the capital expenses, we have top projects by capital fund. These are itemized by project name and the expense, the committed amount in 2024. We also have a project highlight for the Terminal Phase 1A project at the bottom here, and a QR code for anyone who would like to learn more information. This goes directly to the Engage Durango slide deck from that presentation. This is digging a bit further into the expenditures for capital. This is 2024 capital expenses by fund, and the table at the bottom is year over year, dating back to 2022 committed expenses for capital. Now we are looking at operating expenses. This is what Heidi was mentioning, where we've really focused on the strategic plan goal area alignment. So here is a pretty high level view of all of the operating expenses by goal area. And moving forward, we have each goal area broken down. We have a page for each goal area, the departments that encompass that goal area, and their 2024 expenses. We also have the definition of that goal area for the community to ensure that they are informed of what that actually entails, and then some of the key 2024 strategic accomplishments from that goal area. So this one is for organizational stewardship. We have innovative housing and economic development, safety and quality of life, reliable infrastructure and community connectivity, engaged and informed community, and strategic workforce development. So we cover all of our strategic plan goal areas there. And we do have an addition here. This was a fun piece that we're excited to continue with future PAFR reports, a Durango History Bites. This is a fun place where we're hoping to add a fun piece of Durango history. This one specifically, we collaborated with the Animus Museum and found some, and the Durango Public Library and their archives team found some great old pictures of the building we're currently in, and then also a newspaper article about the historic high school building. And then the last page is for feedback. This is an evolving report. This is the first year we've been able to do this, so we're excited to read all of that feedback and build off of this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So much great information digested for dummies like me to be able to synthesize it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Catherine, Heidi, and Rhonda for putting this together. Amazing product. Thank you.
Any other city manager updates?
Yes, we do have one final update. It will be Sarah Hill, our transportation director, to provide a little bit more information on the 7th Street project that the council has received some information on in regards to how it fits holistically in the speed management plan. A little bit of just clarifying information to provide.
Great.
Good afternoon, Council. Sarah Hill, Transportation Director. I apologize for presenting with a black eye this evening, but I can promise it was not related to work. It was my 2-year-old daughter hugging me very aggressively. So I am providing an update on the speed management plan and the temporary demonstration projects. The slides that were sent to you have been modified a little bit to clarify how we got to this point with the demonstration projects. And I'm gathering that there's quite a lot of interest in the room for that as well tonight. So very quick and brief history, starting with the current multimodal transportation plan. Council adopted this in 2023. The MTP has a goal to improve the overall network safety, and there are several objectives under that goal. I highlighted 3 of those that are particularly relevant. Objective 1 relates to Vision Zero resolution, and more on that in just a second. Objective 4 is to improve our response time to community safety concerns. And one of the notable actions under that goal is to implement quick build projects to be able to be more responsive to community requests. All of the goals in the multimodal plan are grounded in the city's strategic plan and the objective to invest in transportation systems that maximize safety, mobility, innovation, accessibility, and user satisfaction. So back to Vision Zero. This is a strategy, a national strategy. Actually, it has global reach as well, to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries. It contends that one death is too many on our roadway, that road fatalities are preventable, and that our transportation network should be designed to prevent them. So one step towards achieving a Vision Zero strategy is to create a plan for reducing speed and crashes in our transportation network. Following, this is a very meandering path here, following the direction that Council adopted in the multimodal plan and in support of our strategic plan goals, staff applied for a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant last year. We were awarded just over $300,000 in April to develop a speed management plan. And that includes the requirement of temporary demonstration projects. Very importantly, under the funding requirements, the demonstration projects are not allowed to be permanent. They have to be about 3 months in execution. So the speed management plan will provide a toolkit of proven strategies and measures to reduce speed and improve safety for users in Durango. All of the options that are provided in the plan are proven to be effective according to the FHWA, and they're intended to be implemented on a contextual basis, case by case, as residents need them in Durango. The measures are also vetted by our Streets Division for Operations and for Emergency Response by DFPD and the Police Department. So simultaneously to the staff action, a group of citizens also brought the concept of Vision Zero to City Council about a year ago. And then at Council's request, staff presented on the strategy last September. Also in September, the development of the speed management plan officially kicked off. That kicked off with a data and needs assessment in partnership with the DFPD and the Police Department. We had a community speed survey this spring that received 600 responses, and it just detailed what speeding experiences people are having in Durango and what traffic calming treatments they're familiar with. So multimodal staff presented on those results and the temporary demonstration plan at the Engage Durango Forum in May. And then next phase of the plan's development is to install these 12-week temporary demonstrations on each of the 3 different road classifications in the city network. So that's one on a residential street, one on an arterial, and one on a collector. Community engagement is going to continue for the 12 weeks of those temporary demonstrations and get resident feedback. And then we're anticipating that the adoption of the speed management plan would come to you in February of 2026. So part of the requirement of the SS4A grant, like I said, is to provide temporary demonstrations, and that allows us to actually install the proposed treatment with temporary materials for 12 weeks to observe whether it's a good solution and if it even has an impact on reducing speed. So it's a real true test to determine whether it works or not in our context. If it is effective, that treatment would then be included as an option in the speed management plan toolkit, so that when a neighborhood has concerns about speeding, we can offer the treatment as one of a variety of potential solutions based on the need of their neighborhood. And again, that is contextual and case by case. One concern that we have particularly on residential streets in Durango is that they are very wide. They're about 50 feet wide. People tend to speed when there's just a wider, uninhibited roadway like that. Certain treatments like traffic circles at intersections don't really have the effect of calming traffic within the block. So we're looking for some type of a treatment in the block that narrows the travel lane and impacts the speed that people are driving at. So the 12-week temporary demonstration developed for 7th Street is the reverse angle and parking on alternate blocks. It is a proven traffic calming measure for wide streets per the FHWA. We don't know yet if it does work in Durango because we've never tried it on a residential street before. But this temporary demonstration will allow us to test if it has an impact on speed. And then again, if it's effective, this would only be one of the options that we're able to offer community when they bring speeding concerns or traffic concerns on their residential streets. These locations were prioritized where transportation or police department staff had received complaints or concerns from residents within the last year. We will be measuring the effect on speed reduction, road maintenance impact, and emergency service access, and the potential for replicability on other residential streets. And then we're also encouraging, we'll be soliciting feedback during those 12 weeks that the demonstration is installed. All of the temporary materials will be removed no later than 12 weeks from the installation. And the information that we receive will help us be more nimble in responding to those community requests that we receive very frequently and that often can take months up to a year to be able to respond to without having this kind of toolkit and menu to choose from. And then also I would just like to say that we are very committed to continuing outreach with the community. We would like to have a neighborhood meeting with the residents of 7th Street that have some concerns, and we'd like to be able to sit down and chat with them and talk through some of those in the process of the demonstration.
Great, thank you. Any questions by council? Comments? Councilor Gonzalez, yes.
Okay, and so we usually hear from constituents later, or okay.
Yeah, public comment will be towards the end of the meeting for
Item 13.
Okay. Okay. So, I guess just regarding the demonstration projects and the process by which you determine, they're not discussed with the community before you start the projects.
They are. The locations were selected by staff and by HDR Engineering in conjunction with FHWA. We were just looking for different streets that had similarities to the majority of Durango's transportation network. And those were for those 3 different categories. So we selected Gigline Gulch, Riverview, and 7th Street to be kind of just the option to look at. That would be something that's replicable throughout the community.
And I mean, I'm very supportive of the project's Vision Zero, especially we know traffic calming or speeding, I guess I should say, is one of the more frequent complaints that we receive from constituents. But sometimes, their communities actually want them. And so perhaps that could be another approach, that we know that there are communities that are specifically asking, or you do say that you've received complaints, but I know that there's often people that complain but don't actually want action to be taken. So I know everybody wants everybody else to slow down. They don't really want to slow down. So perhaps is that
well, yeah,
considered?
and I would say that one of the factors that went into the locations that we chose was based on where residents were very engaged and were providing feedback and had concerns about speeding. So we thought that selecting these areas would actually be welcomed by those neighborhoods.
And then just going back to the Vision Zero initiative, which is a program I'm very familiar with. You mentioned you went back to can you go back to that slide? Because was there funding associated, or so have we formally adopted a Vision Zero?
No,
Okay,
not yet. Yeah, the speed management plan is our next step beyond the multimodal transportation plan to get that action plan in place to start achieving those goals. But then the resolution would be picked up by City Council. That would be something that either the community or City Council promotes.
And well, I'm very familiar with it, and I know it does often come with technical support, including potential opportunities for community engagement, which is something perhaps we could consider as we continue to get more information from these different projects. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah,
Just one quick one. Have we had any conversations or comments from Gigline and the other street that might be
No,
attached?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks.
I did a walk and roll with the Gigline Gulch community, and when we knew that this was going to be put into effect, and they're super supportive of the 12-week program to kind of give feedback and like see, it's a process, right? And like to give feedback to see what works, to see what doesn't work, so we can go forward in the most productive way. And so we kind of need the community to,
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, one more question, then follow up on that. Do we have a list of other streets that would be applicable to 7th Street that might be options?
There are other residential streets, but at this point in the process, we would have to leave the residential street out of the speed management plan because we've gone through FHWA's NEPA environmental clearance review, and that takes a significant amount of time.
Okay.
So we'd have to get additional funding and go back, kind of start the process over.
We would still proceed with the two.
We could, that would be an
One
option.
may have to start
And
over.
we just
There's a-
not have options for residential street speed management.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 6, committee, board, and liaison reports. Councilor
I'll
Buell.
start since you're leading the meeting and you can't start. Let's see here. I had my Alliance board meeting. We approved our Q1 financials. We had a conversation. Let's see here. Sorry, I forgot my glasses and I'm struggling. Let's see. The fifth round of the Catalyst funding closed. We also were asked to present at the EDCC conference this year, which was exciting. And then we had a conversation around the RHA could be having some changes in some leadership or potentially or structure or something. And so we're just talking about our role with that. And so TBD on how that board meeting went. So is what we did with the Alliance. I went to the Downtown Next Steps community meeting. I spoke at the Cause internship, which is a high school program for juniors and seniors that volunteer for nonprofits in our area. It's a great group of students and they're paid for the month during this internship, and they help different nonprofits in our area with their social media and marketing efforts. So they get to learn about marketing and also make a little money. So that's great. I also had a meeting with Rich with West Slope Startup Week. I don't know if you guys know what West Slope Startup Week is. It's for business owners and entrepreneurs, and they used to have it all over the Western Slope, but it's been in Durango the last like 3 or 4 years. We're having it here again in October. Rich is doing the sustainability track. It's their first year with that track, and he was getting some advice from me on what I thought as a business owner and then part of a organization with lots of sustainable focus, what they should include and what topics and stuff. So super interesting. There you go.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez or Councilor Koso?
Yeah, just a couple of highlights. Mayor Pro Tem and I are part of the DFPD, the Fire Department District conversations around a ballot measure to augment their budgets, and that'll be coming up and a pretty important issue here in the next couple of months. So there's a heads up there. Next step meetings are in process right now. We've still got one next week that I wanted to make sure we promote as much as possible. It's around accessibility, but it's open to anybody that might not have made one of the other next steps meetings. And then next week we'll be gone with our city manager, and Councilor Gonzalez will be up in attending a municipal conference to learn how to be better counselors. So looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. I also was able to attend Downtown's Next Steps meeting for business owners. I think all 5 of us were there at one point. So it was good to see a lot of people that were actively engaged with that process. I met with, anecdotally, with residents regarding their concerns with Downtown's Next Steps over the last couple of weeks. And so it's been good hearing some of their concerns and, figuring out a path forward there. I also had a watershed and wildfire protection fund meeting with DFPD, the county, and some other organizations about how we're addressing wildfire and safety in our communities. And then again, as Councilor Koso mentioned, we are on that DFPD work group to figure out, again, how to discuss possible funding mechanisms for as we see our community grow and the need for more fire assets in the community. And then I had a Chamber of Commerce board meeting this morning. We had Mary Shepard from the Southwest Business Development Center there, kind of going over what she does, and just an incredible asset to have in our community. If anybody that's looking to start a business or even has a business that needs some supplemental help, what a great resource to have. But yeah, that's what I had over the last couple of weeks. And then we are on to agenda item number 7, public comment on action items only.
Public comment is encouraged on agenda items set for consideration and a vote by the council tonight. Public comments on items not set for consideration by the council come later in the meeting. Please begin your comments by stating the agenda item set for a vote you intend to speak on, your full name, and if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to the council. Do not expect a response from the council or staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, unless modified by the council. Unused time is not transferable to other speakers. Comments must be specific to the item you identified when you began your comments. Profanity, hate speech, personally derogatory remarks, speech unrelated to the item you identified, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and any remaining time will be forfeited by the speaker. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only a majority vote of the council can modify time limits. Please note, you must sign up prior to the mayor calling the item on the agenda. Signing up after the item is called will result in your name not being called to speak.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Ben, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The majority of the folks signed up for non-agenda items. However, Jenny Hill signed up for an item that doesn't appear to be on the agenda for HVAC upgrades. But Jenny, if you're still online, you're more than welcome to wait till section 13 for non-agenda items.
Unless it was a mistake, but I don't know if, do you see a Jenny online?
Council, you do have some other individuals in the audience that are here for the liquor license hearing. They asked me before the meeting if they should sign up. I told them it wasn't necessary because I would call them during that hearing.
Okay, thank
Then
you.
just go on.
All right, moving on. Item number 8, consent agenda. Ben.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff. And so for the consent agenda tonight, we have item 8.1, approval of the minutes from the City Council regular meeting from June 3rd, 2025. Under 8.2, final reading of ordinances, we have an ordinance authorizing 6 ground leases with Asher Aviation Group LLC for airport hangars W11, W12, W13, W14, W15, and W16 at the airport. Under 8.2.2, we have an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, which is Ordinance O 1997-22, Section 5, for the purpose of amending the composition of the Board of Directors of the Durango Business Improvement District. Under 8.2.3, we have an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 9, Response to Emergencies, Civil Emergencies, or Local Disasters, Section 9-3, Definitions. 8.2.4 is an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, Health and Sanitation, cross-reference. 8.2.5 is an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Junked, Wrecked, and Abandoned Property, cross-reference Section 12-1, Refrigerators and Other Containers. There are no adoption of resolutions by consent. There are no approval of other administrative items. And there are no items under request for public hearing. Under 8.6, introduction of ordinances, we have 8.6.1, an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Taxation, Article 2, Sales and Use Tax, Section 23-73, Open Space, Parks, and Trails Fund, Restricted Capital Improvements Fund. Under 8.2, we have an ordinance repealing in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 5, Durango Fire Protection District Fire Impact Fees, and there are no requests for excused absences.
Thank you, Ben. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to pull 8.6.2 just for a clarification.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing 8.6.2.
Discussion? All right, roll call.
Councilor Buell,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez, Councilor Coso,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Yes. All right. 8.6.2.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on,
If you
sorry,
just move as
I'm
read.
jumping again.
Yeah. Sorry. You can just move as read.
Move as read.
Discussion.
There we
Councilor
go.
Koso.
There we go. I just wanted to ask if the Durango Fire Protection District was in favor of this or had weighed in any way on this.
They're in favor of it. This is the result of state legislation, Senate Bill 24-194, which supersedes this chapter of our code. So this is just simply doing some cleanup to repeal that ordinance because it's no longer relevant.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Councilor Gonzalez. Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Yes.
Councilor Buell,
Yes.
and Councilor Koso.
Yes.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 10, public hearings.
Mayor Pro Tem, this is, you guys are going to take your hats off as counselors and you're going to put them on as the local liquor licensing authority. This is a quasi judicial hearing. So you're now convening as a local liquor licensing authority in the matter involving Jared and Amy Thompson in the 6th Street liquor store. The way I'd like you to think of this is that you guys are the judge or jury. I'm representing the administration, and then the respondents have an attorney here. Doug is his first name, and I've forgotten his last name. Doug Reynolds. And typically what happened is we would have a hearing and I would present witnesses about what has occurred. And then I would ask you to either suspend or revoke a license. I have 2 police officers in the back who are prepared to testify about any facts. But if the council is desirous of it, we can eliminate all that because we've reached a stipulation that 2 incidents occurred and that there would be both a consequence to that and then an agreement about a particular employee not being at the store. So the stipulation that we would offer that would be that on April 23rd, 2025, the clerk at the store who happened to be the owner, Jared, one of the owners, Jared Thomas, was there intoxicated while distributing alcohol. A similar event occurred on in May, and there was an incident April 28th of 2025 where no one could be found at the store for approximately 15 minutes. It's my understanding that if we were to go forward with the hearing, there would be a stipulation to those facts as I just recited them. Mr. Thomas is very regretful for what has happened. He is currently in AA treatment for his issue. And the stipulation would be a 7 to 15-day suspension of the license. That is punitive in that that's 7 to 15 days where they would not be allowed to be open and make a profit. And further, that Mr. Thompson would be banned from the store indefinitely with the stipulation that he could petition the council to be an employee at the store at some point when he gets sober and convinces you of the same. So very simply, we're offering a stipulation to those facts to a 7 to 15-day suspension. You guys would have to pick how long the suspension is between the 7 and 15 days. And then we would stipulate that Mr. Thompson would not be at the store until he petitioned the council to do so. Of course, we would follow up on that with random checks to make sure that he's not there. Any violations of that would be reported to us, and of course, we would follow up. As far as this, whatever number of days you would decide on, I would work with Mr. Reynolds to determine how to most successfully complete that to where it's punitive, but not such that they're going to lose their business because they have to go 2 weeks without a profit. So if that stipulation is acceptable, that's what we would offer. If it's not, we would go forward with the hearing where your choices are to do nothing, to do a suspension of any length that you choose, or to revoke the license. But it's a recommendation of the city attorney's office to enter that stipulation and just let us know how long you would like the suspension to be. Obviously, I'd like to give Mr. Reynolds an opportunity to address you if you would like.
We're not in city council hats anymore. Are you guys okay with Mr. Reynolds popping up here?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Reynolds, please.
Client step up here as well, Amy and Jared Thompson. And just to be clear, it's Thompson. It sounded like Mr. Morgan referred to him as Mr. Thomas a few times. So I just want to make it clear that it's
I
Amy.
throw P's in there and other stuff.
You know, it just wanted to make sure the record was clear.
I got it written right here, Thompson.
So Councilors Douglas Reynolds, the Reynolds Law Group here representing 6th Street Liquor, which is J.A. Thompson Beverage LLC. As Mr. Morgan said, we are conceding the allegations. We're not challenging the allegations at all. The Thompsons acknowledge the seriousness of these violations, and I've had a number of conversations with them as well as with Mr. Morgan. I'm just going to be frank with you. Mr. Thompson, through this, has come to terms with the fact that he has a serious alcohol issue. And this has brought it home to him that he needs to take steps to address that, and that's what he's been doing. He's been attending AA meetings. He now has a sponsor. He's working on getting some private treatment. The main thing is that he realizes that he needs to stay out of the store. He acknowledges himself he needs to stay out of the store as a means for him personally to stay sober. He recognizes a big part of that, like I said. He's been out of the store for the last since April 28th. There was one 5-minute period when he went in with his father just to check on get some paperwork. And he hasn't been in the store since then. Ms. Thompson, his wife, recognizes that she now needs to step up and take over the in-store management tasks, and she's prepared and committed to do that. They have 3 employees in the store that are going to cover most of the shifts. And then, like I said, she'll be doing the actual in-store management that is necessary, and Mr. Thompson will be staying out of the store. The Thompsons have a long history and connection to the community and to this store, particularly Mr. Thompson. And they made a considerable investment in moving here and buying the business from Seattle. They are really committed to making the store a success, and most importantly, to making sure the store is compliant and safe for the community. They do know that having a liquor license is a privilege and not a right. And I appreciate all the cooperation I've gotten from Mr. Morgan on this one in trying to come up with a solution that we think will work well for everybody involved, both the community safety, but also the Thompsons. And the one thing I can assure you, based on my conversations with them, is that this isn't going to happen again. Nothing like this is going to happen again. And I'll just throw a personal note in. I don't usually take clients that just kind of walk into my office, but Mr. Thompson did. And the reason I wanted to help him out was that there was a really nice article done in the Telegraph about the 2 of them when they bought the store back in January, I think it was. And my girlfriend read the article and was like, oh, they sound like such nice people. We have to go visit that store and buy some stuff. So I felt like, they were people that I really wanted to help out and see what I could do to assist them. So again, I appreciate Mr. Morgan's cooperation. I'm going to have them say a few words just so you kind of get a sense for where they're at. So you want to go first, Jared?
Sure. I have so much prepared and I've forgotten most of it. I have been a part of this community. I graduated from Fort Lewis, grew up in Farmington. My father and my mother owned restaurants in Farmington, Bayfield, Angel Fire, New Mexico. And so this is my home around these parts. And I am making a very earnest effort to get sober and stay sober. And if I got to stay out of the shop that I poured almost all of my wife and I's money into, I'll do that. I've been doing that and I will continue to do that. We've hired a new employee that she took over most of my shifts and my wife took over all the responsibilities I had. And I'm fighting really hard right now to keep our business alive because we've got employees. Some of them have been there for years, and I don't want to be responsible for them losing their livelihood. And my father is an investor in the business, and he dumped a lot of money into this, and I'm just so sorry for my actions, and I beg of you guys to just let us keep our license and keep moving forward, and whatever I have to do, I'm willing to do it. And my poor wife here is going through this with me, and I'm sorry to you as well. So that's all.
All right. First of all, thank you for hearing us today. This is all he talks about, just how regretful he is about, the instances that have happened, and also just the danger that the community was put in. Leaving the store unattended is, and I just want to say thank you to Durango PD for being there and kind of holding it down. When I got the call, I left my other job. I work as a medical assistant full-time. So left there and kind of made sure that the store was manned, but I owe a lot to them. So yeah, thanks again, you guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we acknowledge what an honor it is to be a part of this community and what a privilege it is to have such an awesome location. And we were both former bartenders, so we're just like, all right, let's do something to where, we do what we know and have something that could be a really long-term, and fun. Like I love running that store. And so it was not a problem to kind of step in and do the orders and interact with the reps and kind of just do all that. So I just enjoy that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, just doubling down and just saying how sorry we are that this happened, and really going to great lengths by preemptively kind of pulling him from the shop to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Counselors, do you have any questions for us?
Hey, questions or comments?
At this point, you guys just need to move to accept the stipulation and suspend the license for 15 days and prohibit Mr. Thompson from being present in the store. You can change the 15 days, but as a city attorney, I'm putting that in the motion for you to consider. So again, I'm asking you to move to accept the stipulation as we've outlined tonight to suspend the liquor license for 15 days. You can change that to however many days you want, and to prohibit Mr. Thompson's presence from the store indefinitely.
And we would request the council to do 7 days. What we've stipulated to that range is 7 to 15.
So you have a suggested motion, just plug in the day, and then you can, once that motion's on the floor, you can talk about it and then vote on it at your leisure.
Do you just want to have that be the motion? Is it so moved? Or do you want to have it put?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and so move. Can I just follow?
And in a second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Conversation? Yep.
Yeah, I can start. Is that good? Okay, perfect. Hi, thank you for coming in and talking. I know that's not easy, and I know life can throw us some curveballs, and we all have struggles and ups and downs. But what I think is super important is, I know, well, me as one counselor, but I think all of us, we live here because we love Durango. We're up here because we love Durango, right? That's why we're serving as your counselors. Yes, having a liquor license is a privilege, but the things that could have gone wrong, like I own a business, right? And there's never an opportunity for a kid at Park Elementary to walk down the street and walk in my front door and get alcohol in a place that isn't, is properly staffed. It's so serious, and it has to be taken so seriously. And I think that that's where, it's super important that we and you take your job seriously. Not only are you putting your money and your, financial at risk, but your employees, our community's lives. It's such another level. It's important that we have business owners, and it's important that you're responsible, but it's another level for you guys than it is even for me as a business owner. And I think that that's what's super important and really hard for me as one counselor to sit here and make a decision on, and, realize that mistakes happen. And hopefully it will never happen again. So I have a question. I was wondering, now that we're our liquor license hats, jurisdiction board, whatever on, is there like typical rules and regulations? Like when someone does this, the police department issues a warning, like on the first one, does that ever immediately come to us? Or when someone does a second time, then it comes to us and we should give this much suspension? So did they know after the first warning, hey, if we come back here and something's the matter, you will go in front of city council and they could revoke your license?
So they're all handled on a case-by-case basis. The police don't even have to report this to the clerk's office if they don't choose to.
It's crazy.
So, but they do a good job. I mean, we trust our police officers. So the system is that it comes, the police officers report it to the clerk's office then forwards it to my office, and then we make an evaluation on what to do, and of course to bring it to the license authority. So it's really us presenting a case to you to make a decision. And the recommendations that I make, my job is to make sure that I'm making recommendations that are consistent throughout the community. If you recall, we had a similar situation with another store last year, and we did a similar resolution to it. The only way we get in trouble is if that we have a record of doing something inconsistent or doing it on some bias or some. In other words, it's my job to make sure we're being consistent and that the punishment fits the crime, so to speak.
Did you look to other like state laws or municipalities when you're making these recommendations to us?
Generally, I just rely on my experience and what's happened here in the past. Every local liquor licensing authority has they're an authority, so they can do whatever they choose to do. And we just strive for consistency that meets the community standards.
And when does this, because there's state liquor violations, when does the state get involved? Is it ever with a business or is that only?
The state gets involved under their own set of rules and choosing. They tend to focus on underage sales and the inconsistency of the license that people have. There's an issue in the city with, Dave can probably explain it better than I can, but there are different types of liquor licenses, and that's where the state tends to get involved. If someone has a license to sell food and alcohol, but they're selling too much alcohol and not enough food, that's tend to be where the state get involved. And they do a lot of stings for underage sales or unverified sales.
And then,
so it's a hybrid model where the state works with the local liquor licensing authorities, and we handle these type of day-to-day operations. They tend to do the stings and the mathematical part of the type of licenses that are held.
And then what would you be able to tell me if something goes wrong and let's say, he's back in the store and violates something and, we find out about it, what would your next recommendation be to us?
Revocation.
Like, absolute.
Yeah.
So that, just so you know, like that is on the table for,
absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to hear that from you. Thank you.
Great. More comments? Yes, Councilor Gonzalez.
So thank you for coming and giving us an opportunity to hear your story. It was very moving. And I just also feel like some of my questions really are for Mark. I'm just grateful that you came because this seems a little odd that, I don't have any legal background in determining whether or not what's appropriate and what's fair. And I'm going to take your recommendation today, but, perhaps could we get a briefing on, is he required to stay out of business indefinitely? Is that part of it seems harsh to me, but I'm explaining it from a person without experience.
What he would be allowed to do under the stipulation is petition you. If he does nothing, yes, he's banned indefinitely. If he achieves sobriety and he wants to come in and prove to you that he's done that and you guys feel that he is now allowed, we can lift that part of the restriction, but it would be on them to do that.
So, because it does seem harsh to me that somebody would have to stay out of their business indefinitely. I did not know that there were rules and laws. It seems to me like having a business and not having anybody there would be bad for the owner. I didn't know that there were rules against alcohol sales and liquor sales and that you can't be intoxicated while you're working there. Perhaps there's other laws and rules that we're not aware of. So I think I might like to have a further briefing. I'm prepared to make a decision based on the recommendation of council, or rather Mark, but I don't feel entirely comfortable doing so. I just don't really feel like I have enough experience to make such a fairly serious judgment.
Sure, and I understand, and the fact that you feel you don't have information is partly due that we anticipated a stipulation. If it's my job to present a case to you, and if I didn't present enough information to you for you to make a decision, then you should not do what I'm asking you to do, so you don't have information to vote against it. But because we had worked out a stipulation prior to this that included a sentence range and the stipulation to the owner not be in the business, we worked together on it. So if you accept it, and the motion is to accept the stipulation. So I apologize if you weren't prepared. What I can tell you is if this was a contradictory hearing or an adversary hearing, you would have provided the exact statutes that were violated. But it seemed to me more expedient, since there's a stipulation, that we could just offer the stipulation to you.
Okay, and so because we are the body that makes this decision, should the gentleman come back in a year, in 2 years, and say, I'm prepared to come back into my business, then we would make that decision as well?
He can petition the city to remove the restriction that he be absent from the business. And what would happen is, if he comes to me and says that, we put on the same part of the agenda, you meet as a liquor licensing authority, I remind you of what action you took, and I say he has now formally petitioned you to be allowed back into the business. He has 12 months sober, or whatever he chooses to present, and we would have a hearing on that, and you could decide whether or not at that time to lift that restriction on the business. I would assume that at that time the suspension would have been served, so that would be the only issue left.
Okay, well, thank you for that information, and thank you all for allowing me to use you as an example as I continue to learn our responsibilities here as well. So thank you very much.
Councilor Koso.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there's some punishment here in the public element of this. I understand that. I do believe that a half months of closure is probably appropriate for the level of error that was made here. So I would stick to the 15 days.
The only thing I would say, being in the food and beverage industry for 20 years in this town, we ultimately are stewards to our community. And the responsible use and service of alcohol is not something that I think we should take lightly, especially when anybody and everybody could potentially walk into your establishment and take alcohol without any sort of oversight is a pretty egregious lapse in judgment. I feel like, being in the industry that I've been in for so long, hospitality is everything. Hospitality is the embodiment of who we are as a community. And so to me, over service of alcohol and then irresponsible service of alcohol is something that I think fits in with that hospitality standard. To me, it's two prepositions, for and to. You're either doing something for someone or you're doing something to someone. That's pretty much the basic premise of hospitality in my mind. And to me, like, this is doing something to the community and not something for the community. So I really want this to sink in, the gravity of this moment, to make sure that we don't come back here again. I know that you're remorseful. I understand that nobody wants to be in this situation ever, but just let's make sure that we're putting our best foot forward every single day to make sure that this is not something that we're potentially putting our community members, our sons, our daughters, our grandmas, our parents, our neighbors in harm's way because we weren't doing our due diligence. All right. So right now the motion on the floor is for 15 days. Does anybody want to offer a friendly amendment, or do we want to stick with the 15? All right. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez. Councilor Koso.
Yes.
And Councilor Buell.
Yes.
Council, I'll work with Mr. Reynolds and the Thompsons on a schedule to satisfy the 15-day suspension that is punitive but not detrimental to the success of the ultimate survival of the business.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Great.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 11. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So item 11 is a resolution approving the city manager's appointment of Scott McLean as Parks and Recreation Director.
Scott, if you wouldn't mind coming on up. Mayor and council, as required by the city charter, Article 3, Section 5 states the city manager shall appoint all department heads with the council's approval. I am pleased to provide you today Scott McLean, who is currently our Assistant Parks and Recreation Director since 2017. Before that, he was the Parks Manager in 2016, and then before that, he started at 2006 as a landscape architect. So Scott has been with us for 19 years. He's also served as interim Parks and Recreation Director as well in a couple stints in helping us when we've had some transition. Scott has wanted this position now, believes he's in a space to take it on. I'm extremely excited for Scott to have the ability to promote into this position when Kelly had to make the decision to relocate back to Bentonville. Scott holds a Bachelor of Science in Landscape Architecture from Colorado State University. He's a member of the National Parks and Recreation Association, Colorado Parks and Recreation Association, American Society of Landscape Architects, and is a professional landscape architect. Scott's first day will be on July 5th, 2025. So it's always a pleasure to do an internal promotion, and kind of goes with where we're at. About 33% of our promotions are internal promotions here at the city. So really excited to have Scott on board. And Scott, if there's anything you want to add on to that.
Just say that I'm grateful for the opportunity and being able to continue working with the Parks and Rec team in a different role and with city leadership and just serving the community. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you for your years of dedication, and we're super excited to see you take the next step into this role and allows for maybe some more movement underneath you in the Parks and Rec division. And timing's everything, because I know a few years ago you weren't ready or didn't want to take this next leap, and so I'm super glad, and I can't wait to see all we continue to accomplish together in Parks and Rec. So congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
And I know there's a lot of people in Parks and Rec cheering you on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say thank you very much for stepping up and really do appreciate that we're keeping it local and look forward to working with you.
I'll make a motion to approve Scott McLean as the new Parks and Rec director.
Second.
Discussion? The only thing I would say is congrats, man. It's a long time coming. I think we were hoping on this dais that we were ready a couple years ago, but I'm glad to see you put your hat back in the ring and back on top. So looking forward to it. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you for the words of support.
All right, roll call.
Counselor Koso,
Yes.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Yes.
and Counselor Gonzalez.
All right, moving on to, looks like 13, public comment on city matters not scheduled for a vote tonight.
Public comment is encouraged on city-related matters, even if they are not set for consideration by the council on tonight's agenda. Please begin your comments by stating your city-related topic, your full name, and if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to the council. Do not expect a response from the council or staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person unless modified by council. Unused time is not transferable to other speakers. Comments must be specific to city matters. Profanity, hate speech, personally derogatory remarks, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and any remaining time will be forfeited by the speaker. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only a majority vote of the council can modify time limits. Please note, you must sign up prior to the mayor calling the item on the agenda. Signing up after the item is called will result in your name not being called to speak.
Thank you. And the first person we have is Sarah Shaw.
Counselors, Jose. My name is Sarah Shaw and I live on East 4th and 7th Street. So I'm here to talk to you about the potential 7th Street diagonal parking. So I've been here for 14 years in the same home, and I can confidently say this project totally blindsided the neighborhood. Residents were never asked if we supported the back-end diagonal parking or invited to a forum or asked for any input. We learned about it from a newspaper article that I shared with you in an email today. This was already after the plans were developed, and it's not community engagement, and there was a decision made behind closed doors. If this project is really about improving the neighborhood, we should have been consulted before it was made public. I'm the one actually who Sarah Hill was referring to, who asked about the speeding on 7th Street last year. And I met with Devin and Keith last summer about the test that they did, the radar test, and they never even managed to mention to me that this grant had been applied for the previous year in 2023. So I felt that was very deceptive. They also stated in an email, which I sent you a copy of the other day, that Keith determined that there was no speeding problem on 7th Street. In fact, there hadn't been any fatalities in more than 5 years, and he considered the case closed. That was in December of last year. So I have really big concerns about this back-end diagonal parking situation, which is going to make our street look like a parking lot. And I don't think anyone's taken in consideration that we all maintain the medians. I know they're technically city owned, but you guys don't do anything with them. We water them, we maintain them, we pay for the water. We spend a lot of money and time doing that. I, in fact, have 4 city trees that were planted by the city that are less than 3 feet from the curb. So if a big F-150 backs in, or a car with 4 bikes on the back, they are definitely 100% going to hit my trees, knock them over. you should just take them out now. This wasn't this kind of thing wasn't thought about in the plan at all. I've had several emails back and forth with Devin and Keith and sorry, Jose, you too. So also no one's taken into consideration the snow removal. So if this was to go into effect after the plan, we would have to have different kinds of snow removal lines, signs and everything. So that hasn't been addressed. And I don't feel like anyone's even considered headlights. So once a car is backed in, if it's a big car, when they turn their lights on, our street kind of curves a little the way it was graded. So cars are going to be back a little. So when they turn their headlights on, they're going to shine into the homes across the street. And I copied you on an email today about an article in Telluride. I was there on Sunday and just happened to see that they installed diagonal parking on Colorado Ave when you come into town, and they did face-in parking. And the article that I sent you states how it's really traumatizing all the people with the headlights facing right into their home all night long. So I really hope that you will consider canceling this and use the money for something else that the city really needs it for. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a packet for you with some information. Who do I give that to?
Okay. Move over to Ben.
I could take it, ma'am.
Thank you. Right. They're all in support.
And the next individual up is Dara Westrup.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Dara Westrup. I'm a long-term resident of Durango since 2011. And yeah, I'm here to talk about the diagonal parking. I think as noted, we have a real process issue here. And when you have lack of transparency, you have reduced credibility. And there's something inappropriate about the whole feel of this kind of flash polls or marketing or making these decisions without the residents who are directly impacted being involved. And, you know, there's no information on the actual methodology, like what was actually asked, who was asked, how did they decide who to ask, what's the actual data, is there data? All those questions float around and are extremely unhelpful. And as we know, parking is such a hot topic. And for 15 years, the issue of public parking downtown has come up. And now we're talking about diagonal parking in our neighborhoods. And there was the mention by Ms. Hill of wide streets. I'm not a suspicious person by nature, but I'm starting to get concerned if a solution to the parking issue downtown, if they're eyeing the residents, right? The residential areas that we've protected for a long time. The residents have to fight if they want to get their porch expanded a foot or change their front walkway. And suddenly the parking in front of their home is going to be drastically altered. It just doesn't seem appropriate. And I know that you've had a lot of pushback from the Next Step program. I think there is a lot of concern about parking, right? I believe 31 spaces are going to be lost. And I certainly hope that the residential neighborhoods with those wide streets aren't being eyed. We're going to shepherd people to park there. So this sort of suspicion, questions, wondering is the sort of thing that open process and transparency and cooperative work with the neighborhoods can dispel and prevent. I hope that you'll consider really carefully what you're hearing from the people who would live with this 356 days of the year, 24/7, day and night. Okay, it's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next individual we have is Joanne Bruton.
Is engineered for me. My name is Joanne Bruton. I have lived on the corner of 3rd Avenue and 7th Street for 56 years. Obviously, I value all the peaceful and residential character of my neighborhood. Historically, architecturally, as it relates to who Durango really supports and loves in this historical community. However, the proposed back-end diagonal parking threatens all of those values that we have. It clutters our streetscape, increases traffic and noise, disrupts the flow of a neighborhood that was never meant to be a function as a downtown spillover zone. This kind of high turnover parking brings down the appeal of these careful streets. Any real estate professional will tell you that buyers are turned off by congestion and confusion. This plan poses a real financial risk to homeowners and devalues the investments we've made in our properties. This is not a mere speculation. It's a direct consequence of reshaping the character of our street without community support. In July 2024, the city's own radar study showed that 85% of drivers on East 7th Street were already traveling between 24 and 26 miles per hour. By your own standards, speeding is not a concern here. In fact, Keith Doherty confirmed in writing, August 2024, to my neighbor, Sarah Shaw, that no additional measures were necessary. So why, just a few months later, are we pushing ahead with a traffic intervention and calling it a safety measure? If there's new data justifying this charge and this change, we have not heard about it and we have not seen anything relating to it. From our perspective, the street is functioning safely. Using grant money to solve a problem that doesn't exist isn't just unnecessary, it's deemed irresponsible. I respectfully ask that you cancel this plan and direct those resources toward an area of town that truly needs attention at this time. Not on the grid and not certainly on 7th Street. Thank you very much for listening.
And the next individual is Amy Brown.
Good evening, council members. Oops, I hope you can hear me. My name is Amy Brown. I'm a third-generation native to Durango, Colorado. I've always been a resident of Colorado and have recently returned here to continue a legacy that my family has worked so hard to maintain. Upon returning, I was very disappointed to hear of the recent proposed changes taking place in our neighborhood. I didn't really know much about it, so I took the opportunity to research a little bit online and read the articles that our group had been researching. I did have a few questions regarding what I had found. My questions are, was the initial concern speed limits? As my mom had mentioned, a study completed on July 2024, it was focusing on speeding on the streets and concluded that the speeding was not a measurable issue and no additional measures were necessary. So why is focus still being placed on these residential streets? My other question was, were residents in this community properly notified of these proposed changes? Again, I read the same article that was regarding Telluride, and it was my understanding after reading this article that the residents were not only disappointed that they were not properly notified, but that the new parking system has created more problems than solutions. This is a concern as parking overflow zones could hugely impact property values, and neighborhood appeal. This leads me to wonder, what is the proposal really aimed towards? Concerns of speeding or accommodating additional parking? How will angled parking and narrowed streets accommodate snowplows? What about trucks with trailers, RVs, trash trucks, school buses, fire trucks, or emergency vehicles? How are they to navigate the narrowed street? Will these vehicles be forced to swing wide onto the boulevard to get onto 7th? What if there's an oncoming car on 7th? Does diagonal parking consider cyclists? How is this safer for cyclists to share the narrowed road, especially after zigzagging from diagonal parking to parallel parking on each block, all along with trying to avoid vehicles pulling out of parking spaces, pedestrians, and navigating vehicles that are now on the narrowed road? If the proposed plan doesn't work, what is the plan to return the street to its original condition, and what is the cost? What is being added, removed, and what is being left behind? I urge you as City Council to please take into account our concerns today as we are fighting to preserve a place that we call home. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual is Jenny Howell.
Council members. Jenny Howell, I own a home on 7th Street, right in the area that is proposed to have this pilot project. And I'm so glad I have such eloquent neighbors who've spoken so well to explain our concerns. So I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but I do wonder about the change in the character of our neighborhood if we were to implement this diagonal parking. When I visualize what it'd be like to look out my front porch and see a bunch of vehicles backed into the front of my house, it just breaks my heart. I'm one of those people that maintains that area between the sidewalk and the street. And I also think that it would affect property values. I'm concerned about that as well, because we work hard to maintain our older homes downtown, and having this project affect my property values would be very upsetting. Another thing that I think Warren's mention is because it's alternating, and on one side of the street we'll have the diagonal parking, and across the street would have the parallel parking. This is the way it's designed. I feel like that is such an unfair way to roll out a speed reduction method, that it's going to impact people on one side of the street in terms of the appeal and the parking volume compared to the people on the other side of the street. And I could just see that is just so unfair and could create some dissension among neighbors, which of course we don't want. So I respectfully ask that you consider, taking this option out of the speed control plan. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual is Ken Banzee.
Good evening. I'm Ken Banzee. I live at 745 East 5th Avenue with my wife. Been there for about 10 years. Lived in Durango for 26 years. I travel 7th Street daily. Coming off of 8th Street and 8th Avenue and down 7th to our house. Twice in my entire time living here, I've seen someone speeding on that street. Yelled at them to slow down, and that's all you do. I just think that over the years, I've seen the city of Durango has a propensity to find $1 million solutions to $100 problems, and this is one of those cases. Well, I agreed with the streets might be a cause speeding or help with speeding or whatever you want to call it, sorry. But stop signs, stop that. People speed because there's no stop signs on Fifth Avenue. So they get a chance to get going and they go. I've seen 3 serious accidents at the 8th Street and 5th Avenue with cars bouncing up onto the people's property and stuff. I've called, written the city twice about it. All I'm asking for is a simple stop sign, and you can't get it. You can't get it done. I mean, nobody responds, nobody anything. Same thing for 7th Street. If you think that speeding's a problem, which it is not, put up another stop sign. That solves the speeding problem. That's a simple solution. The diagonal parking, 7th Street is unique in that there's always a parking spot there for longer vehicles. So landscapers, people wanting to go boating, having their park trailers out there for the day, or campers or visitors or whatever, because parking's available there. We don't need any more parking on that street. We need to leave it so people with longer vehicles and businesses, people can park their vehicles there when they need to. It's one of the few places where they can. It's a unique street. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason to put diagonal parking. To me, it seems like it's another veiled attempt to force more parking into the neighborhoods because there's less parking coming in the city again. Another 38 parking spaces leaving this downtown Main Street is insane to me. I mean, every time you see a survey, first thing people say is we need more parking downtown, and yet you just keep throwing them into our neighborhoods. That makes me unsafe. So please stop this project. Thanks.
Thank you. And the next individual is Ellen Taylor.
Concerns that have been expressed so far, much more eloquently than I could. It's just unfortunate that the residents of 7th Street were not consulted before this project went into planning, because obviously there's a lot of people opposed to it. And perhaps there's another street in town that would be more amenable to this project. The other thing that I wanted to raise was speed is dangerous, but narrowing that street by having cars out and parallel park is also dangerous, I think. We have lots of bicyclists, lots of families bicycling with little kids. We have lots of dog walkers. We have a lot of big truck traffic on 7th Street coming up from 6th. And I think that narrowing the street is much more dangerous than speeding at this point, especially since there's been some question about whether speeding is even a problem. So I was happy to hear that the residential street part could be left out of the whole thing. And I hope that that's what you will consider doing, since we are also opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual is Brad Clipping.
Hello, counselors. Thank you for your service to the community. I'm Brad Clipping. I'm a local resident. I want to talk a little bit about the city's false narrative here that we need a speed management program. Some other people have hit this, but I want to hit this square on the head. The average speed on this street is under 25 miles an hour. So we need to talk about what is the goal here. If it is managing speed, how much lower do they want it to go? The speed limit's already 25. As you go from 3rd Avenue into the study area, you go to 4th Avenue and then 5th, there's another stop sign. At 6th, there's a drainage culvert that you can't cross more than 15 miles an hour. And then between 7th and 8th, there's another 2 blocks that you can get up to speed. The data doesn't show that people are speeding through there. And in fact, we do have an email from Keith Doherty dated December 5th about a study last summer. I'm going to read Am I allowed to give you a handout?
Yeah, of course.
I'll simply quote from this email. This is from a city study. Keith says, below are a few bullet points related to your questions and concerns on 7th Street in the 4th and 5th Avenue vicinity. Going further down, the police department set up their speed radar devices. We used hidden devices. Neither seemed to indicate a speeding problem in this location. In both blocks, the 85th percentile indicated was between 24 and 26 miles per hour. This does not indicate a speeding problem. He then attaches quite a bit of data. I haven't seen the raw data, but his analysis here highlights what the average speed is, what the 85th percentile speed is. So this is above average. He goes on to say there were 550 cars per day near 4th Avenue, about 845 cars per day near 5th Avenue. Less than 1,000 vehicles per day is a relatively low value of traffic on these streets. Devin asked the police department to search for any accident reports in this vicinity, and no accident reports were found in the last 5 years. This again indicates it is unnecessary to install stop signs or other traffic control devices to reduce speed in the vicinity. This study was done in the summer of 2024. This was done after the grant was applied for in 2023. So the grant was applied for apparently without data. And then the city got data proving that the grant wasn't necessary. I ask you to please strike this down. Let's not do this. This does not make sense for our neighborhood. Thank you.
The next individual is Lataj Gamble.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lataj Gamble. I've been a resident of Durango, Colorado since 2013, and I've been a resident of Valle de Merced since 2016. I have 4 children, my oldest being 16 and 3 little ones, 4, 3, and a year old. And I come to you today to bring attention to a matter, an ongoing matter with a neighbor in my complex. The most serious incident occurring on June 8, 2025, with a DPD incident number of P25-20612, in which my neighbor, which the ongoing issue has been happening, she indecently exposed herself to my small children. And as noted, a DPD was called. However, no attention was given to this matter, and they actually didn't follow up with a report. And I just wanted to point out the key points of indecent exposure are age. Obviously, and it was my small children, my 4-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my 1-year-old. They're under 15 years of age. So, okay, check that box. The age of offender is over 18 and more than 4 years older than my children. Check that box. Awareness, the person knew that a child was in view of exposure. Check that box. And it's because she has a backyard door that's full length, just like this, with curtains just like this that were closed. And my children, the backyard area is not fenced off. It's like a common use area where my children play because it's a flat grass surface. And whenever she heard them nearby, she purposely moved the curtains to expose herself to my small children. And the only one with the words to be able to communicate what was happening was my 4-year-old. And so she came and got me and told me, and they're no strangers to the harassment by the neighbor. And she immediately came and got me and told me that, the neighbor keeps showing herself to them and she's naked. She has no clothes on. And so I followed them out there. It's a short walk. Our units are like 6 yards apart. And as soon as she could hear them near, she, moved the curtains back with her arms and exposed herself fully naked. And as soon as she saw me, she retracted immediately. So that tells me awareness, that she knew that a child was in view of exposure. And the exposure must have knowingly exposed genitals, which she was completely naked. And the intent, she did intentionally expose herself to my children because she moved the blinds. And when she saw that I was outside with them, she immediately tried to hide behind her curtains. And I know my time is running out and I apologize, but I just want to note that, a protection order was issued on the 12th and she was served that same day.
Please wrap it up, Mrs. Campbell.
I'm sorry?
Please wrap it up, please.
Okay.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes.
Fine. This is the most serious incident that I want to bring attention to, and I just want to note that DPD did not write a report. They're not pressing charges or they stated that there was no criminal intent. And just for the record, the officer that called me was Officer Anderson. And when I went to DPD the very next day to file a report, it was Sergeant Engel who responded, and he's the one who told me that no.
Yeah. Sure. Is there a motion to extend the time?
We just need to pull in some law enforcement, I think. I hear what you're saying here.
That's okay. So we can't respond from the dais. So we either need to make a motion to extend the time or we need to be done with this public comment.
I'll make a motion to extend the time.
By how much?
2 minutes.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it was Sergeant Engel who met with me at DPD, and I was accompanied by an advocate with SASO. And he indicated that a report was not even made because a criminal act was not performed. And he couldn't have brushed me off any faster. So I asked for a report just stating everything that he told me I wanted in writing. And he told me, it'd take a couple of days. But based on his response to me, it could have been written up in like 5 to 10 minutes. But this is the most serious offense I wanted to, bring to everyone's attention. And I just wanted to be noted that, I brought it to my property manager's attention. This is going back to May 9th of 2024 when the neighbor threw water on my small children while they were playing outside. Again, nothing was done. But in between, what happened on the 8th and May 9th of 2024, nothing has been done in regards to this neighbor. And I'm not the only one who has had issues or voiced their complaints. So thank you for your time and thank you for allowing me to speak longer.
Thank you.
And the next individual is Jacob Brooks.
Hi, my name is Jacob Brooks, resident at 420 East 7th Street, here to speak on the proposed angled parking on 7th Street. Really proud to live in this neighborhood on the grid. I think it's an important neighborhood for Durango, if not the most important neighborhood in defining the landscape of our city. The grid is Durango's oldest and most historic residential neighborhood and an essential feature to the city landscape. Its diverse architectural history, moving from the Victorian era of the late 1800s through the Craftsman movement in the 1920s, not only shapes Durango's only downtown neighborhood, but also adds immeasurable value to the city, a unique character and charm that's almost impossible to assess. So I think this really does affect not just the residents of East 7th Street, but everybody living in Durango. We need to preserve this historic neighborhood, and turning 7th Street into what will look like a parking lot will undoubtedly take away from this unique character of the neighborhood. I don't have any new points to make that my neighbors haven't already made, but it can't be overstated that when we asked for a stop sign on East 4th Avenue, we were told that through a study there's no speeding issue, and yet we're told that this proposed speed management program is to address a speeding issue. There is an obvious hypocrisy in what this is for. So again, that cannot be overstated, and we need to look at that in further depth. So thank you so much. I'm going to end this shortly. And yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jake.
Tanette Garcia. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Laureen Carcerano, excuse me.
I'm here to support my neighbor, Lataj. Everything she has said is true. This woman has harassed everyone in this neighborhood for 4 solid years. She's dangerous. She's vicious. She's caused a lot of issues for me as well as everybody else. The fact of the matter is that she does not belong there where we live. She is seriously mentally ill, and she belongs someplace where she can get the care that she needs, and she's not getting it where we are now. She has been threatening. She's a danger and a nuisance, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next individual is Dean Brookie. Dean Brookie.
Good afternoon. My name's Dean Brookie. I live at 970 East 4th Avenue, the corner of 10th Street and 4th Avenue. And on a lighter note, I'm here to talk about parking. And I wasn't aware of this study. I'm always, as an architect and planner, I'm always like to see innovation and experimentation in city planning and bring about new and innovative ideas. I wasn't aware of this until my neighbors in Mass brought this concept to me and showed me the diagonal parking. And then they said, and I thought, well, diagonal parking. Then they said you get to back into it, and it's traffic calming. So I'm here to say, one, I'm an advocate of next steps. I can say that we do have a speed problem. I live on 4th Avenue, and there's accidents at least once a month on my corner, and some serious, some not so serious, but it has to do with the sequence of yield signs and stop signs and yield signs and stop signs. And when I drive home every night, I stop at every corner just because. Could be a deer, could be a kid, could be whatever. So, but the idea of diagonal parking, it's not a traffic calming in my mind. When I look at the diagrams, it's not traffic calming. It's truly creating more parking downtown for people that work and play downtown. And we're inviting those people to park diagonally backwards in our neighborhood. So it reminded me of my ex-wife when she said, well, I want to buy a dressage horse. What you do with the dressage horse is you teach it to walk diagonally backwards. And I'm a single guy today because that horse never learned how to walk diagonally backwards. In fact, in our city today, on these diagonal parking spaces in our commercial district between Main and 2nd Avenue, we cite those people. As I say, we've been training people from Farmington for 40 years not to back their trucks backwards into our diagonal parking spaces. And there's a reason for that. It's dangerous, it's difficult, and it's not particularly, I mean, my cognitive skills are not as good as I was when I was on council, probably, but, and we have vehicles that are smarter than we are these days that can back into diagonal. But in reality, what that does is invite downtown parking, creates a parking lot in our neighborhoods that didn't exist before with parallel spaces. And as those people come up and they park in those spaces, if this is 7th Street, I live on 10th Street, for certain, if it's successful and people do park and wander downtown and spend money and create tax base, it's going to go on to 8th Street, 9th Street. It's like Vietnam. You think it's going to be, all these streets are going to be sequentially utilized for downtown parking. Our neighborhood is not the city parking lot. No matter how many spaces we lose with next steps downtown, we should create a parking garage. We should look at more innovative mass parking for downtown commercial tenants and not invite those people up into our neighborhood.
Please wrap it up, Mr. Brookie.
Side streets. Then
please wrap it up, Mr.
We
Brookie.
go on 4th, we go on to 5th, we go diagonally, we go up 7th, down 8th. that's how it works. And we have more traffic, which is more dangerous than it was when this started. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next individual is David Peters.
Good evening, City Council members. My name's Dave Peters. I've lived in Durango for 18 years. It's been over a year now, and the North College Drive Road and Utilities project is still not complete. Is anyone in the Utilities Department overseeing this project? You have trenches that are not fully filled in, making driving difficult due to dropping 2 or more inches in those areas. Contractors have dug out trenches, filled them in, only to repeat the process. They're basically wearing out the dirt. I've observed open trenches at the end of the day not being taped off. I've damaged 2 tires on North College Drive. I'm an engineer by degree and manage large and small projects. And I must say, this has to be one of the worst managed projects I've seen in Durango. I'm in the Sky Ridge area. I've been there for 18 years, and the upper half of Jenkins Ranch Road has never been resurfaced. The road is very rough due to pipeline trench settlement from the original building. We have sidewalks that have over 2 inches of buckling, which is a real safety hazard. Why hasn't anything been done to address this? The sidewalk repair program never took off where you share costs. Oh, and further problems with utilities engineering, continually only a fraction of the capital project improvement budget ever gets spent. We have turnover of managers in utility and repeatedly hire from the outside only to see them leave in a couple of years. This turnover isn't just limited to the utility department. What's really going on here? For utilities, I offer 2 things. One, I think you should restart the utilities board, or you should expand the FAB board to truly have engineers and talk about utilities. There are plenty of engineers in this town that are willing to serve and help. And this isn't the full solution. I think you need an engineering firm who provides management services to come in and get the utilities back on track and train high potential staff to fill future management positions. I do not feel you have proper training for staff so you can fill internally instead of rolling over people, managers every 2 years. That's not in the taxpayer's interest. The downward spiral of utilities will continue if you don't take action.
Please wrap it up, Mr. Peters. Please wrap it up.
Also, I looked at your website today, notice there are no financials reported for any month in 2025. Really? Thank you for your attention.
Thanks.
The next individual is Joe Hanrahan.
Start with this. My name is Joe Hanrahan. I live in Durango. I'm the owner of Durango Cyclery. I came down here today mostly to deliver this petition that we created at the Cyclery with a couple other business owners downtown to encourage the city to continue with the next steps of the Next Steps project. I feel really strongly about the Next Steps project. I came down here to talk about that. People started talking about parking on 7th, and I think it all ties together. You know, number one, in terms of the Next Steps project, it's a generational opportunity to increase pedestrian, cyclist, and even driver safety downtown, and it's the most economically responsible way to do it when we pair it up with the much needed utility upgrades underneath Main Street. If we miss the opportunity, when we fill back in the trenches on Main Street and it still looks the same, or God forbid, we put 2 lanes of traffic in each direction on Main Street again, that is a missed opportunity. And 30 years from now, we're going to look back on that and have plenty of regrets. So that's it. I've got 27 names here. This got filled out pretty quickly. There's certainly a lot of support for this project, and I don't think a lot of the people who support the project when we talk about it are the ones who can like get off of work, including myself, my employees, to show up at the meetings. So they're not necessarily the most engaged people, but the support is out there. People want to feel safer on their bikes and walking downtown. In regards to that, I would say I ride my bike on 7th Street a lot. I ride 4th down to 7th to get up to Horse Gulch, and a lot of other people do that. I ride that multiple times a week. It's a great place to ride a bike, and I think with more traffic or with more parking will come more traffic. And yeah, I don't have any problems on 7th Street. 4th does have a speeding problem. That's like the only place we have aggressive passing, like pass me when I'm riding my bike or when I'm on a group ride on 4th. As far as other parking goes, I think there's other opportunities. Keeping it west of 2nd is probably a good idea. Every time we talk about parking, I just repeat, it's like banging my head against a wall. There's always parking at the transit center. I don't know what the city needs to do in terms of like marketing and branding for parking at the transit center. Like give it a snazzy name or something, but like there is always parking. A parking garage is going to be ungodly expensive and take forever to pay off. Maybe when the transit center fills up consistently, then we can explore a parking garage, but there's always parking at the transit center. And finally, I would just like to encourage the city to rapidly create some sort of official statement in regards to the Senate reconciliation bill with the proposed open land sales around Durango.
Thanks.
Animas City is on the map. Junction Creek is on the map. Perrins Peak area is on the map. Those are our public lands around town. It would be great if you guys could do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And the last individual is Josh Fogelman.
Hey, thank you, counselors, and thank you for your service. I'm Josh Fogelman here with my wife, Steffi. We're at 714 East 5th Avenue, here to talk about the back end angled parking. I think the neighbors have done a great job of articulating the concerns that the residents of 7th Street have today, and I can tell from your body language that you have really taken that into consideration. So thank you for staying and listening. I want to say a few things. One, it really does feel like this is an unfair application to 7th Street. As a resident nearby 7th Street, it does feel like that street has been singled out against the other streets to be sort of a test run for this mad scientist project here. And that's a lot of the basis of the concern. Talked to a lot of people around the avenues, and no one knew that it was happening. I was talking to people yesterday, had no clue that it was even going on. So I feel like also a lot of the issue here and a lot of the frustration you have is from a lack of transparency, lack of communication about this with anybody in the neighborhood. There has also been a failure to discuss potential alternate plans with the residents of the grid. Back in angled parking was dropped on everybody as a surprise with no community input, no discussion about other methods that might be as effective. So I think that's also a huge concern. Turning 7th Street into a de facto parking lot is a huge problem as well. It is going to be impactful to the property values for those that live on or around 7th Street. It's going to increase noise and increase traffic when the general public knows that there's ample parking up and down 7th when and if parking on Main or in other streets becomes an issue. So that does seem to be also problematic. Safety is an issue. I'm a personal injury attorney. I come from Austin. Judge me if you will, but I come from Austin. I've seen back in angled parking done on South Congress Avenue there. It's terrible. Cars have to pull past the parking spaces, come to a stop, back in. Other users of the road don't see that coming. That includes cyclists coming up behind them. It's surprising. It causes a backing up and congestion and a variety of other just logistical problems. You also have a disparity of vehicle lengths. So if you have a longer vehicle that's blocking a shorter vehicle next to it, pedestrians or cyclists driving by don't have an opportunity to coordinate and communicate with those that are parked nearby. So there is an opportunity for increased danger. I've seen it. And finally, there are also the proposal mentioned that lots of these cars have backup cameras. I see half of the cars in Durango are 1980s Land Cruisers that don't have backup cameras. Like, that is not a good thing to assume is going to provide safety opportunity. And then think about folks with trailers, lots of people trying to park with their trailers. How do you do that with limited space to park? So thoughtful of those landscapers. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Thanks. All right, anybody else for public comment? Great. Other new business? Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up under new business? All right, only thing I have left is adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourned.
I know, I was like, it's
It's in.